Hi, I'm Michael Senoff, founder and CEO of HardToFindSeminars.com. For the last 5 years, I've interviewed the world's best business and marketing minds. Now my challenge is to build the world's largest free resource for online, downloadable audio business interviews. I've learned a lot in the last 5 years, and today I'm going to show you the skills you need to survive. Hi, this is Michael Senoff with HardToFindSeminars.com. You know, a lot of people have Art Hamel's course right now, and I continue to get other questions asking about the support that Art gives for his course. Well, here are some of the questions, and what I do is when I get a question, I generally just pick up the phone and call Art. I ask the question on your behalf, and I get his answer. I record the call, and I provide you the answer directly to you. Some of these questions have been piling up, and I've asked Art all these questions that have been coming by ways of email from the Art Hamel students, and that's why I've added this new recording to cover more questions and answers from existing Art Hamel business buying course owners. So hopefully these questions will cover some of the things that you're thinking as you go through the course. I hope you enjoy. Here's a guy, his name's Anthony. Michael, I know I have emailed you earlier with a couple of questions for Art. If you haven't spoke to Art yet today, if I can replace those questions, if I may. The main question I have for Art is, how is the deal structured? What is the return for investors, Art's fee, and what percentage will the buyer own? Also, the exit strategy for the investors. How is it after a set number of years one is able to buy these investors out? Thank you, and I appreciate all your help.
When you're going out to buy a business, let's take a middle-of-the-road thing, manufacturing. And let's say your return is 25%. Okay? When people go out to buy businesses in the United States or all over the world, our investors are looking for a return of anywhere from 25 to 33%, depending on the risk. In other words, a manufacturing company might give you a 25% return, whereas something riskier like a service business might give you a 33% return. Okay, now, let's say you buy one and there's a 25% return. I then take you to the investors. But we have investors with cash, we have investors with real estate, and of all the years we've been doing it, the most we have ever given away is the equivalent of 12%. Now, if you have attended any classes in math, you realize when you buy a business and it's going to give you 25% return, on the other hand, you're paying your investors 12%, that means you're going to end up keeping 50-some% of the business even though you've put up very little or no money. Now, it varies. Taking California today, if I were working with people in Southern California and using their improved real estate that was free and clear, their cap rate runs 2.5% to 4%. So you might be able to, if you were working with people from Southern California or people that were used to getting less return, you might end up keeping 70% of it for 75%. Now, keep in mind, what we're doing is we don't have a standard. In other words, we try to give them usually 20% or more than they're getting right now. And there's three things we're pushing with people when they invest. Number one, we're going to give you more return right now. We're going to give you more growth in the business that we're buying. And the third thing is comparable risk. In other words, the business that we're buying is as safe as the investment you have right now, or even safer. So those are the three things that we keep pushing, and it works very well. My fee normally burns 10%. Now, say you wanted to raise $10 million, my fee would be $1 million. Let's use that as an example, okay? Because let's look at it. Say you pay me $1 million. Before you start to worry about that, keep in mind it's going to take you $10 million to buy the company, which we'll deliver. I will deliver the $1 million that you're going to have to pay me. On top of that, you're going to have attorney's fees and CPA fees. So what happens is we would end up saying to you, okay, we're going to deliver $11,500,000 from the investors. So when you get to your close, you have enough money to cover everything. In fact, you could probably throw in $300,000 or $400,000 for working capital. So we make it say $12 million. So that's basically what we're doing. Now, if you want to analyze where I'm coming from versus you, if you go in and buy a company and say it's priced at $10 million, and let's say it's doing $2.5 million a year profit, you're going to end up getting half that. So you're going to get $1.25 million to $1.5 million, depending on how much stock you end up keeping. You're going to own half or more than half of a company worth $10 million. So at the close of escrow, you pick up $5 million in true net worth that you can go to the bank with, and you pick up an income of $1.5 million a year, which you didn't have before. Michael, I've told you many times, I'm looking for something else to work on. I'm working I was looking forward to working with other people.
Right.
And so it's not a money thing because it would be easier for me to put that business deal together for myself than trying to put it together for someone else.
All right. And so he also wants to know what kind of involvement. Let's say that he doesn't have a ton of managerial experience, and then this thing goes down. What kind of involvement is he going to have on a day-to-day operation?
You mean running it?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, here's what's going to happen. The investors are going to dictate a lot of that. If he has a good management experience and is going to be able to run this, and again, it doesn't mean you're going to be running the thing on a day-to-day basis. You can be an absentee owner. Okay, we leave the management in there. You don't want to get stuck in this thing of being there every day. That's crazy. And the investors don't care about that. But what they do with me is, number one, if the person coming in is not putting up enough, they insist that I put up part or all of what I get. Okay, this has been my experience for 25, 30 years. The second thing that happens, if you don't have a lot of experience, not only will I still own part of the company through the stock, the other thing is I have to either be the consultant or the chairman of the board or the CEO. In other words, I'm going to have to run that company until you, the buyer, end up getting to the point where you can run it yourself. And also, I would do that anyway because if I own part of the stock, I don't want to end up losing the whole thing because you can't manage the company. I'm not trying to make the managing of the manager a big thing. It isn't. The problem is where my head is. Mm-hmm. Okay, in other words, if you're not coming forward with anything, again, could I put the deal together if you had not 1 cent? Yes. Could I put it together if you had no experience? Yes. Could I put it together if you had no management experience? Yes.
Okay.
But if you're bringing, and again, I'm not talking about bringing a lot of money to the table. It's tokenism because what happens is if you're an investor, somebody coming in to buy a company, invest nothing or next to nothing in it, guess what's going to happen when the company has trouble? The buyer is going to leave. He's going to walk out. Mm-hmm. And that's what everybody worries about, and I don't care what country you're in. That is a legitimate thing. So, and one other thing that he asked about going out, the average investor will stay for 5 years. So we set the pro forma up. We set up 5 years of projections of what the company's going to do. The person that's putting, say, $1 million in, because that's their minimum that they put in. They put $1 million in. They're earning 8% on their investment now, and we're going to give them 10, which is 25% more. Okay, which is pretty good. And what they're going to look at is, okay, I'm going to have a certain percent of this company. We're making so much this year, and I'm going to be making so much for the next 4 years. Okay?
So if it's a $10 million business, you're going to get, for example, 10 investors to bring in $1 million, and they're going to make a couple points more than they're already making with real estate.
Or with money.
Or with their money.
If it's real estate, the example I've always used over the years has been a 10% cap rate. Mm-hmm. Most real estate around the country does not earn the 10% cap rate now. Okay, the cap rate's lower. So we don't have to pay as much right now. But even when we get back to the point where we have a lot of 10% cap rates, and we will soon, that always goes back to this, it still makes economic sense. Mm-hmm. And, again, everybody can argue with me about how this works. It doesn't work, but if you go out and check the numbers, this is what you're going to be able to get it in the market for. This is what the investors ask for. And if you just figure the arithmetic, this is how much you end up with. It seems to be obscene, but it's what the market is.
All right, so what happens 5 years? Let's say a deal goes down and Anthony buys a business, using your investors. 5 years has passed, and then the investors want out. What happens after that point?
Okay, at the point in 5 years, what happens is you can either sell the company, okay, and pay them off and pay yourself off, or what you can do is get the thing appraised and give them the appropriate share of the value of the company.
Hi, it's Michael Senoff with HardToFindSeminars.com. Thanks for watching this video. Many of my interviews last 30 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour, sometimes even up to 2.5 hours long. They're actual mini seminars, and you've just listened to a short sample of just one of over 117 hours of exciting, hard-hitting, mind-blowing interviews on how to make money in direct mail, advertising, copywriting. I assure you, there is not a resource anywhere on the internet or on the planet that comes close to the free information I provide at HardToFindSeminars.com. So go right now to HardToFindSeminars.com, and you'll have free access to 117 hours of audio interviews with typed word-for-word downloadable transcripts and downloadable MP3 files. Please browse some more of the videos or go right directly to HardToFindSeminars.com. Thanks for watching.